is Top Accolade News with tonight's African news updates, where the old guard is digging in while the new economy is exploding. From Ivory Coast entrenched leadership to Cameroon's burning streets, these stories are the heartbeat of a continent shaping its future. The headlines: Ivory Coast Ouattara secures fourth term. Mali's former prime minister faces jail time for undermining the state. Cameroon erupts in protest as Biya secures eighth term. South Africa's Patrice Motsepe expands mining empire. We begin in West Africa, where the concept of term limits is becoming increasingly fluid. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara has secured a fourth term in office with 89.7% of the vote according to provisional results announced on Monday by the Electoral Commission. The 83-year-old leader in power since 2011 triumphed over former Commerce Minister Jean-Louis Biya and ex-First Lady Simone Gbagbo in an election marked by low turnout and limited opposition. While supporters hail him as a stabilizing force who rebuilt the nation after years of unrest, critics warn that his extended rule risks turning Ivory Coast democracy into a dynasty. In Bamako, speaking out just landed a former leader behind bars. A court in Bamako has sentenced former Mali Prime Minister Moussa Mara to 1 year in prison for a social media post supporting political prisoners, a move widely seen as part of Colonel Assimi Goita's tightening grip on dissent. Convicted of undermining the credibility of the state, Mara also received a suspended 1-year term and fined 500,000 CFA francs. His lawyers plan to appeal. In Mali today, a post of solidarity can read like a threat to power. The power dynamics aren't slowing down. Our next stop is Cameroon. Cameroon's economic hub Douala descended into chaos for a second day as protesters clashed with security forces following President Biya's re-election for an 8th term at age 92. The Constitutional Council's declaration sparked widespread outrage, with barricades, fire, and gunfire reported across several districts. Opposition candidate Issa Chiroma Bakary rejected the results, calling them illegitimate, as Biya extends his 43-year rule in Douala's burning streets. Fatigue has become a form of protests. Now let's turn from political tension to economic power. South Africa's richest black billionaire, Patrice Motsepe, has finalized a $1 billion acquisition of Mark Copper Limited through Harmony Gold, cementing his company's expansion into Australia's copper markets. The deal, financed via cash reserves and a $1.25 billion bridge facility, strengthens Harmony's strategy to balance gold and copper output as demand for green metal surges. Despite a recent share dip, the company's liquidity remains strong, but Sipe's latest move shows that in mining as an ambition, the deeper you dig, the broader your world becomes. You're watching the African News Update on Top Accolade News. Do stay with us. Still to come. Thanks for staying with us. Staying with the economy, hope flickers in Malawi. The International Monetary Fund has resumed talks with Malawi's new government in Washington, signaling potential support for a fresh lending program after the previous one was scrapped in May. IMF officials said discussions with President Peter Mutharika's administration were productive and centered on restoring macroeconomic stability and advancing reforms. Facing one of Africa's deepest economic crises, Malawi is now seeking a financial lifeline to revive growth and investor confidence. For a nation long burdened by hardship, the road to recovery may depend on more than one new loan. It needs renewed trust. We look to East Africa, where a high-level U.S. visit signals shifting alliances. U.S. Vice President JD Vance is scheduled to visit Kenya from November 24 to 27, following his attendance at the G20 summit in Johannesburg, where he will represent President Donald Trump. The visit underscores Washington's growing engagement with Nairobi, a key regional ally recently designated a major non-NATO partner. Talks are expected to touch on trade and security cooperation, even as Kenya balances ties with both the US and China. In diplomacy, every handshake tells a story, and this one could redefine East Africa's alliances. In Nigeria, a single survival is a story of grace under pressure. Nigerian singer and Abia State Governor's Senior Special Assistant on Tourism and Entertainment, J. Martins, narrowly escaped death on Monday, where his car veered off the Enugu-Aba-Port Harcourt expressway after suffering a brake failure. The vehicle plunged into a bush at high speed, but the musician emerged unhurt, calling the experience terrible and thanking God for his safety. In a nation too familiar with tragedy on its road, this was a song that ended in grace, not grief. Finally, we close on a celebratory note in sports. The Namibian Football Association has announced that two of its top referees have been appointed by the Confederation of African Football to officiate the Women's African Cup of Nations 2026 qualifier between Ghana's Black Queens and Egypt in Accra. The appointments mark another milestone for Namibian football officiating, highlighting CAF's confidence in the nation's growing refereeing talent. For Namibia's football fraternity, this is a whistle blown in celebration of progress. From the tightening grip of political power to the sweeping reach of global business and the hopeful strides in culture and sports, the continent continues to move at a relentless pace. We'll be here to track every turn. I'm Audra Romeo Pocha, and this is the African News Update on Top Accolade News, keeping you connected to the pulse of the continent.